Godt Nytår, which is the Danish for Happy New Year. Now, last week I made a little video about how we celebrate Christmas here in Denmark. And if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that Christmas is basically the whole month of December, and then the very celebration of Christmas runs over 3 days: Little Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day. Anyway, moving forward, we've just had New Year, and like everything else, the Danes have so many traditions associated with it, and I love New Year in Denmark. But anyway, let me just roll back a bit, because as you know, I'm not Danish, I'm Scottish. I met my husband when we were both working at the Court of Justice in Luxembourg in the 1990s. And you know, when I spent New Year at home in Scotland, you know, we have traditions too in Scotland, and the tradition, let me just put down my tutor. I feel like I've got a cigar here. And the tradition would be that, you know, we'd have a party, and, you know, at 12 o'clock when the bells rang, everybody would wish each other a Happy New Year. And then the tradition in Scotland is to go first footing, which means to go and visit people just after 12 o'clock. And the first person over the door, over the threshold, should be a tall, dark stranger, and or carrying a piece of coal for good luck, and or bring some shortbread. Now, I've got a big brother, he's 5 years older than me, and if we would be at my granny's, it was always my brother's job to go and ring. My granny lived in a block of flats, you know, a tenement block. With a lot of other old ladies, and it was my brother's job as a teenager to go ringing all the doorbells and, you know, wish the old ladies, you know, Happy New Year, and that was their luck insured for the year. So anyway, that's how it was in Scotland. Oh, sorry, all these sparkles. And then on the 1st of January, there'd probably be a football match, a local derby, you know, like Hearts versus Hibs. And my granny would make steak pie. That was this tradition. Now, then I moved to Luxembourg, and we had New Year in Luxembourg, and that was, you know, at 12 o'clock, you know, the usual, and champagne and partying. And then I met my husband, who's Danish, and we started having New Year in Copenhagen. Now, this was before we moved to Copenhagen. And it was then I thought, it was then that I really realised that the Danes are quite crazy. You know, they look very kind of serene on the surface, but they go mad, and they love their traditions, which I love too. And all my friends say I'm more Danish than the Danes, because I love all the traditions, and now I'm doing all the traditions. So anyway, I thought I would just talk you through what our New Year looks like, our New Year's Eve and our New Year's Day. And it all starts, you know, I said to you about Christmas. Christmas is something that you celebrate with your close family, like Christmas Eve dinners with the family. And there's no kind of set start time, you know, it's when it gets dark, and then it's probably about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock that you have your dinner. Now, New Year is different. New Year you celebrate with friends. That is just a huge thing. It's a huge party. And we always celebrate with our friends. And actually I've been celebrating with my besties for many years. And with one of my besties, we've actually celebrated something like the last 13, 14 years together. Anyway, the timing is essential for New Year's Eve in Denmark. We were hosting this year, and when you're hosting for New Year, the guests will turn up at 5:45, 5:50 p.m. Now, why do they do that? That is because at 5 to 6, you put on the television, and everybody stands up, has a glass of champagne ready, and you watch the Queen's speech. Now, I never watched the Queen's speech on Christmas Day when I was in Britain. The Danes, they love their Queen, and everybody, like almost everybody, watches the Queen's address. And nobody watches the Prime Minister's address, you know, on New Year's Day, but the Queen's speech on New Year's Eve at 6 o'clock, everybody kind of stands to attention. You've got the guards, the Queen's guards outside in the court, you know, in the palace, and it's fantastic. Anyway, everybody stands up with their glass of champagne, and you listen to the Queen's speech. and everybody's gathered there. And then, oh, hold on, I just need to make sure I don't miss anything. I had to write these things down because there's so much going on. And the Queen speaks for about 10-15 minutes, and you know, I love the Danish Queen's speeches. They're really pertinent, and this year's was no exception. Anyway, I can put a link to her old speeches. You can read them in English, you don't need to read them in Danish. And then once the Queen finishes her speech, and you always know you're getting to the end of the speech when she starts talking about the people in the Faroe Islands and the Greenlanders, you know, and the military services and everybody who's working in old people's homes. Then you know you're onto the final straight. And then she always signs off by saying Gud bevar Danmark, God bless Denmark. And then you all kind of, you know, say chin chin or skål, as we say here with the champagne. And that is kind of the first opportunity for you to go out and fire off some fireworks. Now, fireworks are a huge thing here in Denmark for New Year. You hear them going off all the time on the 31st and also on the 1st of January when people wake up and discover they've still got some left. But, you know, they take it very seriously, and we all wear our goggles. And I always feel like I look like Bono from U2 when I've got these goggles on. But safety first. And when I first came to Denmark, the fireworks would be going off, you know, all of December. Luckily, they've kind of tightened things up now. So the fireworks are only sold for a certain period, you know, is it just before Christmas and just after Christmas, for a set time. In the old days, I'm talking like 15, 20 years ago, you could buy fireworks, you know, the whole of like November, December, and it would just be constant. There was fireworks going outside. So at least now it's more controlled. But on the 31st of December, you will hear fireworks going off basically all day. But at 6 o'clock, then, once we've heard the Queen's speech, we go outside, watch the first fireworks, and they spend an incredible amount of fireworks each year. I think on average, and not, of course, not everybody buys it, but on average per person, it's something like 500 kronas worth, which is about £75 or about $80. And that's, you know, we have 5 million people here. So that is like on average, that's the amount of spend that they spend on fireworks. Anyway, so you start a few fireworks and then you come in and have your dinner. And we always have a 4-course dinner. And traditionally in Denmark, in the old days, when I first came to Denmark, it would often be cod, which is called torsk. But that's died out. It died out about 10 years ago when the price of cod skyrocketed. But generally it's something, you know, it's some kind of big roast of beef. People eat a lot of sushi. You know, any kind of luxury foods, you'll see lobster being sold, and caviar, and anything that's kind of luxury, that's what you have for New Year's Eve. Now, you have your first course, and then you kind of do a bit of washing up and go out and fire off a few more fireworks, and then you come in and then you have your second starter, and then you go outside and do some more fireworks, just the small stuff. And that's how basically most of the evening goes. And then at 11:50 p.m, 11:55, somebody says, remember to switch on the telly, and we put on the television, and you will tune in to Town Hall Square of Copenhagen, and that's where we have like the equivalent of Big Ben. That Town Hall has the clock, and that's the one that we go by. Now, something else happens then. You should know that if you're ever invited to a Danish New Year's Eve party, make sure that you don't wear holy socks or holy tights, all right? Because at 11:55 p.m, when you're getting ready to hear the bells, you know, to hear the bells going, you take off your shoes and you stand up on a chair, or, you know, some kind of, you know, if there's anywhere you can kind of stand up, because what the Danes do is they jump into the new year. When you hear the first bell going, you know, the 12 bells, you jump off the chair or jump off the sofa or the settee into the new year. And that's what they call it here. And that's a tradition, and that's what we do. And I'll put some photos in this video so you can see it happen. I didn't take video of us doing it because, you know, it's kind of private, there are other people there, but I took some photos, so I'll put that in. But it's just like, and also it's like a kind of symbolic thing, like we're jumping into the new year, you know, out with the old, in with the new, and we jump into it. So just make sure that you don't wear any kind of holy socks, you know, wear your best socks on the 31st of December. And in fact, also when I used to live in Scotland, I would always have to wear new underwear. Was that a tradition, a Scottish thing? I don't know. I just always felt like I had to wear new underwear going into the 1st of January. Now, when you hear the first of the bells, you jump off the furniture into the new year. And of course, you hear all the fireworks going. And just after 12 o'clock on the same channel, you will hear the Danish girls choir, and they sing 3 songs, and it's very beautiful. And you know, we all kind of stand there with our champagne, sing skål to each other, and listening to the songs. Kom Christian, stod the høje mest, and and you know, there's not an eye dry in the house. And once those 3 songs, you've heard those, then it's kind of the changing of the guard, and then that's when everybody gets their safety goggles on again, gets their coats on again. And luckily this year we had rain earlier in the evening, but that had stopped. It was a bit foggy, but it was quite good conditions. Some years we've been standing there like in that much amount of snow, so it's quite annoying going in and out of the house the whole time and changing, getting your hat off and gloves. Anyway, everybody goes out, and that's when the fireworks really get let loose. And the fireworks go on, I would say, at least around us for about an hour. And we are talking standards of something that you would see at, you know, some kind of firework display. It's crazy, but it's fantastic. And I made some film of it, so I'll put that on at the end of this video. And the other thing that we do at 12 o'clock when we, you know, say Happy New Year to each other is that we have Kransekage. Now, I don't have much left. This is the leftovers. This is one that Vibeke made this year. Sometimes we make it ourselves, sometimes we buy it. This is what's left. And Kransekage, if I can just show you, is it's made from marzipan, because you know the Danes love marzipan. And she made 2 kinds this year. You can see this one is just a plain marzipan one, and it's made with marzipan and egg whites and some icing sugar, and it's really quite difficult to make. It's an art to make Kransekage. And then it's baked and then topped with white icing, and then, you know, you decorate it. I'll put a photo in here as well. And the other one that Vibeke made, I don't know if you can see that there, we've just broken off a piece, that has nougat inside. Danish nougat, which is kind of like a soft kind of chocolate fondant. Anyway, so that's what we have with our champagne and Kransekage, and that is New Year's Eve cake. Now, oh, hold on, I can't read my writing here, hold on a wee minute. Anyway, so when I'm finished making this video, I'm going to enjoy the very end of this Kransekage. Actually keeps for a few days, but not if I'm around. Right, so that's what we eat. Now, these fireworks, as I said, will go on for hours, and our party this year finished about 2 o'clock. And then, you know, my husband and I were just kind of clearing up a bit, and you can still hear the fireworks going off. I think I switched off the light about 3:45, and there were still fireworks going off. Now, what about the next day? What about New Year's Day? Well, there are a few kind of traditional things that you do in Denmark. First of all, you go outside and you clear up the fireworks, and we have a whole wheelbarrow of what was, you know, the debris from the fireworks. So that's one thing that you do. And also for people who've got a bit of a hangover, they'll probably go to McDonald's and get a burger and fries. But a lot of Danes, they will sit at home watching ski jump from somewhere in Germany or Austria, you know, Garmisch-Partenkirchen. And that is just a Danish thing to do, that, you know, you just chill on the 1st of January. You eat leftovers, you know, we were eating Kransekage and the roast beef that we had left over and the salad, and you just chill. On the 1st of January, nothing happens. You watch ski jump on the television. We also have a couple of other television programs which you will watch around New Year. On the 31st of December, it's not something that we ever actually managed to watch because we're always having a party, but there is a program called Dinner for One, and it is it was made in Britain. Nobody in Britain has ever heard about it, but the Danes think that, you know, everybody around the world knows it, and it's basically this lady who is kind of having a party on her own, and she's got the butler, and he comes and serves her a drink. You know, she's having like 12 courses, and he serves one for her and one for him, and they get more and more drunk, and it always ends with the same procedure as every year. That's the kind of tagline. It's starring Freddie Flinton, I think, if I remember rightly, who my mum and dad had heard of, but they had never seen this thing either. So, I mean, it's from like 1950s. Anyway, it's something that they show on Danish television every year. Also in Sweden, I believe they watch it as well. But as I say to you, you know, it's in English, but I had never heard of it before I came to Denmark. But the Danes all assume that everybody knows it because they watch it. Anyway, it's very popular also in Germany. And the other film that you'll always see on New Year's Eve is one with Peter Sellers, The Party. And they always show that, I don't know what, in Danish it's called Birdie Nam Nam. So either Dinner for One or The Party, those are shown on New Year's Eve on the 31st of December. And the next day on the 1st of January, everybody's watching Ski Hop from Garmisch-Partenkirchen or wherever it is. So anyway, that was a kind of rundown. I think I managed to get everything in. Yep. And the only other thing that I can add to what I've said about that is that, of course, I have my own tradition, which is having, surprise, surprise, a skinny dip, you know, a winter bathe with my two besties. So that's what we did, and we were down there with some leftover Kransekage, and we had sparklers, and we had little dealy boppers in our head. So if you've, you know, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen the pictures. So anyway, I hope that was a little introduction to New Year's Eve in Denmark for you. I shall put some filming of the fireworks at the end of this video so that you can see it, and also some of the pictures of the Kransekage and the table and us being a bit crazy. So anyway, all that's left for me to say is Happy New Year. Stay safe out there, especially if you're doing fireworks, and see you very soon. So Diane in Denmark signing off, and as usual, live long and prosper, and God Nytår.